on the 10.1 PTR. Now, this is the very first day of the PTR. There's so much new stuff, a new zone, new dungeon journal, and then today we're going to take a look at all the new raid bosses and the new trinkets and items coming from the new raid. So if you enjoy stuff like this, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you comment down below, and if you really like it, consider hitting the subscriber button. Now, let's take a look at the dungeon journal. So for those of you who don't know, the new raid, Abberus the Shadowed Crucible, is a 9-boss raid in the instance. There's 9 bosses ranging from Kazzara, the first boss, all the way down to Scalecommander Sarkareth. Now, of course, there's going to be spoilers for the raid, so if you don't want to see those, if you want to avoid the spoilers, then maybe look away, click off now. If you're watching the stream, I don't know, you can leave if you want. But we're going to go boss by boss. We'll look at the mechanics, look at any cool loot they drop. I've already seen some cool stuff. There's definitely some cool rarer trinkets that drop from some of these dungeon bosses, raid bosses, sorry. But without further ado, so Kazzara, I think this is the Hell Dragon. Yeah, so this is like the Elementium Dragon thing. This is actually so cool. So it's like based off of Deathwing, as you can see, it's like Deathwing. This is the first boss, I think. Yeah, first boss. So it says, before Deathwing, there were many attempts to infuse a subject with Shadow Flame, and this is the only one that survived and is the guardian of the Shadowed Crucible. So this dungeon journal seems complete. So it tears open dread rifts from which rays will seek to exterminate her enemies. Upon reaching 100 energy, she fires off a beam from her mouth, and then at 80 health, 60, and 40, she falls off plates, which kind of pulses stuff. Okay. So, what I'm seeing, so Rays of Anguish, is this only a mythic thing? No, they're here on normal as well. Does it just go away? So let's look at mythic. So Hellsteel Carnage, this is the first effect. So these are the plates on the thing. So it's 80%, 60%, and 40% HP. The plates kind of fall off and deals damage. And then the more plates you have off, the more damage she deals. And the more blood she spits out. So I guess it kind of gets harder as the fight goes on. It deals more damage to you. As the plates fall off, you're going to have more kind of swirlies to dodge. So that kind of makes sense there. Dread Rifts. She roars, it afflicts people with a mark. After 4 seconds, rifts happen under them. So there's like little puddles, I guess. Yeah, so there's puddles that happen. And then brings a blazing energy to blast out. So I guess there's beams that come out from the rifts. So basically, and then this is just healing stuff. Mythic difficulty will continue to burn players until consumed by a dread rift. So it seems to be that the boss is going to have like ever ramping difficulty because of like the plates falling off. And then as the fight goes on, she drops these puddles. And then from those puddles, there's going to be beams that come out. On Mythic, it looks like the beams aren't going to go away until you run them into another puddle. So I guess if you're going to get targeted by one, you just kind of have to run in a line to another puddle, which makes some sense. That doesn't seem too bad. Infernal Fusions, this is another Mythic mechanic. So if another beam crosses an existing molten scar, so like a puddle in the ground, it erupts in energy. It does a bunch of damage to everybody in the raid. Okay, so there's like it basically makes like Tron walls where you can't run over the other wall. That's kind of cool. Seems like an interesting first boss. Definitely seems harder than Aranog. But it doesn't seem too bad. Now let's see what this thing drops. So this is for Havoc. So it drops a helmet, a back and a waist, crit strike, haste verse. None of these are that good. And then it drops a Seething Black Dragon Scale. So this is a very rare trinket. Your attacks and abilities have a chance to grant you ephemeral dragon wings, increasing your crit by 1,000 and your leech by 300 for 15 seconds. That seems really good. That seems a lot like Blackwing. No, not Blackwing. No, what was it? Rathian. That is Rathian from Nyalotha, the first boss. So that definitely seems like a trinket you're going to want to pick up. What else we got here? Let's check tank. There's a tank trinket. Gain 5 stacks of fortified dread slab plating, reducing damage you take by however much. Taking a certain amount of damage consumes 1 stack, rupturing the plates to unleash a dread ray. I don't know. Like, it shoots out beams, I guess, whenever you get hurt and the stacks fall off, but I don't know if that'll be good or not. I guess we'll have to see what other tank trinkets will be available. First boss seemed interesting, at least. They're doing something new besides just kill ads, kill boss, so that might be a little interesting. We got Molgoth, so this seems like it's 2 different bosses. The creation of Shadow Flame destroyed countless elementals. Now only the strongest remain. Krosgoth and Moltana. One of Shadow, the other of Fire. They combine their powers. Okay. Check abilities. So there's 2 ads. There's 2 bosses here. And it seems... So Coalescing Void. Condenses a point around them with intense void energy, inflicting shadow damage to players within 40 yards, and applies Corrupting Shadow. Players further take less damage. Umbral Detonation. Form Shadow into multiple players that detonate after 6 seconds, inflicting 6,000 damage to players within 8 yards, and applying Corrupting Shadow. And it leaves a thing... Leaves lingering Umbra at the location. Okay, so this seems all about Corrupting Shadow. So Krosgix pulses with intense shadow energy that applies a debuff to enemies in range, inflicting 6,000 shadow damage every 5 seconds, and reducing health by 2% every stack. Oh, that's dangerous. So every single stack of Corrupting Shadow, you just have less max HP. That's kind of scary. Shadow appear in the mortal plane and converge on Krosgoth, inflicting 2,000 shadow damage to players in their path, and this applies shadow. So is there a way to... Okay, so her ability is apply shadow. Now, does the other guy remove shadow? No, it applies blazing heat. Alright, I split between all targets. Okay, so that's a meteor. Missiles on the ground. And you need to soak them. Players can intercept the missiles, inflicting 6,000. Okay. Swipes the player, causing friendly fire to move at their direction, and applies blazing heat. Flame slash. That's a tank thing. Apply stacks of blazing heat that inflict 4,000 fire damage every 1 second. Okay, and then what's Living Shadow Flame? This is just another ad. Living Shadow Flame creates a large meteor in front of them. So that's just all the effects together, except... I'm not sure what to make of this boss. I imagine... I don't know how the Living Shadow Flame comes into play. Looks like both of them together. So what I have to imagine happens is that you get stacks of the Void, and then the stacks of the Fire kind of remove them or like counteract them or something. That would be my best bet. And then Living Shadow Flame, I don't know what this is. It just looks like it has both abilities combined. So this looks like a 2-target cleave fight where maybe when you beat them, there's like a third ad. Molgoth. I'm unsure. I don't think there's enough here. What loot does it drop? Legs and a ring. Oh, heavy verse mastery ring. Good pants. Crit mastery pants. And it drops a trinket as well. Your Sinister Strike, Spec Filler, so I guess Havoc's would be Chaos Strike, has a low chance to cause an Echoed Flare a moment later, dealing 35,000 Shadow Flame to your target. Strike your weapon against the anvil to bend its latent energy to your will, permanently increasing the chance of Echoed Flare until you leave combat for 10 seconds. This chance is increased for 10 seconds after each use. That stacks up to 5 times. So it just makes your attacks, your filler, have a chance to cause an Echoed Flare. So I guess it'd be good on classes that use their fillers often. Havoc uses Chaos Strike fairly often, honestly. So that might not be too bad, but I think there's better trinkets. I think this trinket is much better from the raid. But this could be interesting for, like, what else uses their filler a lot? Warriors, maybe like a Fury Warrior, maybe something like the Rogues. I'm unsure, though. I don't know. It doesn't seem amazing. It depends how much the chance actually is. So let's go to the next boss. So this is the first tier boss. So this is like going to be a wing end boss. What can we see here? So there's 3 ads. Oh, that guy looks messed up, bro. They're all like Void Touch, and there's no... There. On the road to develop Dracthyr, there were many failures. Some of these early versions were too volatile to destroy, and instead kept dormant to protect the world from their brutality. Now they awaken to test their prowess against the champions of Azeroth. Okay, so this is a loot boss for tier. So this is hands. So this is the tier hand boss thing. Drops a Warglaive, a crit haste Warglaive. That's actually not bad. It drops a crit strike burst belt, and it drops a trinket. Resonant with the power of the chosen Dragonflight. Oh no. Granting 590 secondary stat. Allies with a different resonance gain 65 secondary stat. Its effect does not stack. Tune with the orb to resonate with a nearby Dragonflight Oath Stone. So this is the trinket from Sepulture. This is the trinket from Sepulture. So basically there's going to be 5 different stats you can pick. That doesn't make sense. There's only 4 secondaries. Yeah, there's going to be 4 or 5 stats you can pick. And basically you just have a stat stick that also gives your allies stats. So it's like Idol, but worse. The thing is that it doesn't give that much secondary stat. Like, so look at my Idol right now. So I have Mythic Idol, and the Mythic Idol is 567 crit, while this thing is 590 crit. So I don't think this is actually that good. I think the stats are too just poor on it. Now I guess it's a more common drop, and you can pick the stats, but in terms of a crit stick, I don't think this is that good. I think there's just better stats from other sources, which is a little disappointing, but third boss, whatever. Okay, let's look at the abilities. So there's 4 different bosses, 3 different bosses. So it's a council fight. Oh boy, I love council fights. So this is the one. So Neldris marks random targets, then charges to and mutilates them a few seconds later. Inflicts damage to all players in the path. So this is like the sword on Sire. So you have to basically get out with them. Deep Slam. Yeah, it's just a cone. Ruptured Earth. Slam sends reverberations through the ground, causing a pillar to erupt. Knock back players. Each player inflicts up to 16,000. So it's area denial. So each pillar inflicts damage to players, and the further you are away, there's more drop off. What about Forceful Roar? So it just pushes players back, and then this is the tank thing. Auto attacks cause the target to suffer arcane damage. When 2 players with infused strikes touch, their enemies react, clearing their stacks and causing an infused explosion. Oh, that's interesting. So the tank mechanic is that they get stacks as they auto attack, and then they have to touch each other to clear it, so they don't just fall off naturally. I think. Thadrion, Unstable Essence. Thadrion infuses multiple players with unstable energies, causing them to take damage over time, and increases over time. Upon removal, so this is a Dispel? Yeah, so it's a Dispel. Upon removal, the player suffers arcane damage and leaves behind a substance. Oh shit, we're just coming on the ground. Leaves behind a substance that erupts, inflicting damage to all players standing within it, and creating an erratic remnant. I'm not gonna lie, I read that as erotic remnant first, so I was really thinking they were doubling down on that whole thing. Erratic remnants. This is a mythic. Oh no, this is a heroic mechanic. Erratic remnant periodically discharges energy, inflicting damage to all players within 4 yards. Deep Spew, bro. This boss is very sexual. Thadrion coalesces energy in his mouth, spewing forth a barrage of missiles. Okay, Uncontrollable Frenzy is a healer thing. So there's a Dispel that leaves a puddle on the ground. Yeah, so you just gotta run out and be dispelled. And then this is also a boss tankable. So I guess they have to touch and clear their stacks. So it's gonna be about managing when you clear. And then does this guy not need to be tanked? Oh, he does. Is this a 3 tank fight? No way. You probably just have 1 tank hold 2, right? But they all do infused strikes. Interesting. Okay, Deep Breath. Takes a deep breath and flies to a location. Okay, so that's literally just... This is literally just an evoker. Disintegrate. Tears into players with blast of blue magic. On finishing, the magic persists, slowing their movement by 30% and inflicting 12,000 spell frost to all players within 5 yards. So you have to get out whenever you do that. You gotta spread. Blossom. Crits an blossom that attempts to reach him. If it makes contact, it heals him. So I guess you can intercept the blossom and heal yourself. So that'd be kind of interesting. And then he also has infused strikes. Okay, this boss doesn't seem that hard. It's just like a get out dispel, a spread, kind of cones. This seems more like a throughput boss than a mechanics boss, right? Like all these things don't seem too difficult individually, but maybe together they all get kind of hard. The tank mechanic's interesting. How you have to clear stacks, but there's 3 of them that do it. and normally you only have 2 tanks. So that could be pretty interesting in like comp making and stuff like that. Loot's fine. Alright, Zaqali Invasion. Lord Cagney leads the Zaqali warband against the Crucible. Brutal and ruthless, Cagney is willing to employ any tactic in order to win. Oh, spooky. Oh no, it's an ad fight. Okay, so this is the boss. It has a phoenix and then a bunch of different Jarden. What does this drop? It drops crit verse weapon, a neck, a chest, and some boots. No tank trinkets. No healer trinkets either. So I guess there's no trinkets on this guy. Oh no, trinket. Zaqali Chaos Grapnel. Roll a grapple to impale your target, dealing 8,000 physical damage and heaving you towards them with tremendous force. On impact, deal 11,000 volcanic damage split between all nearby enemies. Impact damage is increased per enemy struck up to 5. So you just yeet yourself into a pack and deal a bunch of damage to them. That's kind of funny. I'm kind of liking and digging that. Okay, let's see what they do. So throughout the fight, wall climbers ascend the rampart walls and attempt to breach the sealed door. So this is a door? I just kind of go up. I guess you have to stop them. Lord Cagney. This is just, it's all just tank stuff. And Cave Rebel falls down. Inspires nearby units, increasing damage done. So... oh my god, there's a boss group? There's a boss group and an ad group, it seems. Okay. Ignara. Provides air support by hovering near him, so maybe you can kill that. So just unleashes damage, and pushes away. Calls upon 2 of his commanders to climb the wall and assist him. Volcanic Shield. Charges their shield with lava, blocking all incoming damage for 6 seconds, and then erupts towards a random player. This just summons some phoenixes. Knocks players up. Blazing Spear, whatever, nothing. And a Mystic. Mystic maintains a blazing internal heat, causing a trail of volcanic ground to follow them. You don't want them to move that much. So this seems like you have a fail condition with the door. Like you can't let the door break. It seems like you're going to be tanking the boss, and then he'll periodically summon ads that you have to break off and kill, it seems. There's a lot in this fight. This will be one of those ones that makes a lot more sense once we're actually testing it. But it seems to me like we can't let this door break, and then we have this big guy, and he's going to summon ads. We have to pull away from him so they deal less damage and kill. But we'll see about that. But he doesn't do anything. He just does tank stuff. Okay, so Rashok. This is just a big guy. That is a large... look how red his hands are. So this drops a trinket. Your healing spells and abilities have a chance to draw additional power from the core, restoring 43 mana and invigorating your target, healing them. Any overhealing gives you burst. Okay, that might not be that terrible. Anything for Havoc. Okay, so this is the leg tier boss. So hand tier boss, leg tier boss. It also drops a waist and the first ring. Oh, I think this is the same ring as earlier, isn't it? Okay, yeah, so the rings aren't actually... so this is all just stuff from Castle Nathra. We don't actually have the stats in yet, it seems. And there's Rashok. So this is a big Jarden. Rashok, once a great leader of the Zaqali, was imprisoned within these halls for millennia. Uh-oh. Molten blood constantly siphoned to power the Crucible. So he's kind of just a crazy battery, I guess. When he reaches 100 energy, he gains Ancient Fury. So upon reaching 100 energy, Rashok unleashes his full fury at his enemies, inflicting 400,000 Shadow Flame damage to all players every 3 seconds. So it seems like you don't want him to reach that. That seems like it'll kill you, so we don't want him to reach full energy. Rashok's powerful Searing Slam creates lava reservoirs which explode with living lava throughout the encounter. Okay, so there's a thing where we have to keep him from reaching 100 energy, it seems. And then he summons a bunch of puddles on the ground that then end up dealing damage to people. So it's like an area denial thing, but we have to keep him from reaching energy. How do we drain the energy? Yeah, I'll show all trinkets. Give me 1 second. So it seems... Oh, here we go. Siphon Energy. Okay, so I guess this is a boss fight. It's a single target fight where you have to pull him in and out of like a column to drain energy and not. That's kind of interesting. I can get behind that. I can show trinkets. So here are all the trinkets for Havoc. So there's Pocket Anvil, which we went over. Seems alright. This one's not in yet. This one seems okay. And then there's rare trinkets. So there's 2 rare trinkets. These ones all drop from the second last boss. And they all have different, they're like clash trinkets. One for Demon Hunter, also Warrior, Paladin, Mage, and Evoker. It gives you crit. And then your area effect spells and abilities have a chance to grant you 3,000 agility for 12 seconds. That's the Havoc Read one. And there's stuff for Rogue, Priest, Death Knight, and Druid, which is harmful debuff spells and abilities. And then there's one for Hunter, Shaman, Warlock, Monk, which is your summons have a chance to grant you agility. I'm pretty sure for Monk and Shaman, it's whenever you summon one of your big guys, it does that. And then finally, we have Seething Black Dragon Scale, which is really strong. So your attacks and abilities have a chance to grant you Dragon Wings, which increases your crit by over 1,000, which is a lot, and your leech by 300. And then if you're in the air, you can use it to fall straight down, deal damage. So those are the rare trinkets, and then these are the normal trinkets. For non-Havoc, there's some tank stuff too. Fortified Dread Slab seems alright. There's Ward of Faceless Ire, and then these ones as well. And then for a caster, there's Envoy to the Empty. Briefly open a pair of gates to the void to redirect the orbit of Anshul the Cosmic Wanderer. No idea what that means. Through your target, dealing 400,000 damage split between all enemies, and it gives you more of them. There's a Flow Stone where you go up to 45 and down to 0. At 45, you get a bunch of crit. At 0, you get like a little spew of damage. There's this healing thing. Vessel of Searing Shadow, which your spells have a chance to draw flames to you, which gives you haste but deals damage. And at 5 stacks, you deal damage. That's about it for trinkets. They seem alright. Maybe not too powerful, but they definitely seem interesting. Like there'd be cases where you'd use them. Which is definitely a little bit refreshing. Let's see. Oh, they're revealing all the tier set tints. Where was I? So Rashok doesn't seem too bad. We have 4 more. Zskarn. Oh, this guy's a unit. Look how tanky he is. An absolute unit. So you walk these halls, yada yada yada. A master at manipulating the battlefield, Zskarn will utilize several deadly traps to test his foe's capabilities. Zskarn will also create several Dragonfire golems to aid him by activating nearby traps. He generates energy, and upon reaching 100, he unleashes a wave of tactical destruction from nearby statues. Okay, so there's a bunch of traps we have around the room. Basically, this is all about dealing with traps and being away from the dragon statues. I think that could be fun. This is going to be something that we kind of need to wait to see on the actual, like, testing. See what happens with it. Magmarax. Oh, what does he drop? Oh, this is also a tier token. This is the chest boss. He drops a dagger. Oh. So tier, he drops a one-handed axe for strength. Drops a dagger. He drops a gun, a back, and some leather feet, plate waist, and cloth wrists. Magmarax is the helm token tier. The last boss doesn't drop tier. Oh, that's good. So second last boss, third last boss, fourth last boss, fifth last boss. Okay. That's good. So the only tier bosses, so the final boss isn't a tier boss, which is pretty good, I think, in my opinion. And where was I? I'm on Magmarax. Oh, a big Hydra. That's cool. It never closed, will never yada yada yada. Okay, upon reaching 100 energy, it erupts into flame and releases a powerful explosion that inflicts fire damage every 2 seconds and increases fire damage taken by 50%. Okay, so that will ramp up fast. Molten Spittle covers random players in fiery spit, so that's a debuff. Upon removal, it explodes, and you create a puddle. Standing in the pool. Okay, so a fire puddle that grows, you have to stand in it to shrink it. And then while it's in a fire puddle, eye level for heroic on the first few bosses. So the eye levels aren't updated. So I put down heroic. It just says 428. But basically 441 is the new 415. And I believe 428 is the new lowest heroic eye level, but they're all 428 for heroic. But I believe 428 is the lowest of the very first few bosses. We don't know the breakdown yet. Like, we don't know which bosses are 428, which ones are whatever, which ones are whatever. We know that 441 is the lowest mythic. I think 444 is mid-tier, and then 450 is the highest one for the last few. That's kind of all we know. What is this guy? So this guy's thing is like puddles that you have to like soak and he can't stand in. Does a bunch of damage. Overpowering Stomp. And knocks everybody back. Blazing Breath. Cone. This is puddle management. So this is like a single target damage check fight where you have to, where you have to manage the puddles. Which seems kind of interesting. Seems a bit like they're trying to do Sludge Fist again almost. We'll see how the tuning on this goes. There is a fist weapon from here. Now, we don't know what eye level this will end up being. We might be able to get actually a max eye level weapon for once, which would be nice. Neltharion. Now, this boss is cool. Now, there's no model for it, but we assume it's Deathwing because its name was Neltharion. And this is a shade of Deathwing. So, he uses his power as the Earth Warder to summon walls of rock and split the arena, confining players. And then there's like certain percentages. He like becomes evil and void powered. And then he opens portals in a final bid to overrun players with twisted aberrations. So this seems like a complex fight. This is the second last fight. There's a lot going on here, and I kind of don't want to break it all down. But there's a bunch of different, like, this is him slowly decaying into madness, basically. At the start, he does a bunch of like air denial stuff where where people are like split. You can like break walls and stuff. And then in phase 2, he becomes crazy and summons a bunch of ads in like a hidden realm. And then while he's crazy, he does class calls. So class calls were a thing on the original, God, what was his name? Neltharion fight back in Classic, where each class would do something. So he basically makes all these people do stuff. So warriors do AoE, paladins are AoE, hunters summon ads that when they die blow up and deal damage. Rogues just stab people in the back. Priests deal damage and also fear people. DKs just grip people to them. They do a totem. Shamans do a totem that deals damage and then explodes when it dies. Mages pulse damage. Warlocks summon a demon. Monks summon a bunch of spirits. Druids just shift into a random form. So if you're a bear, you might just go like cat while tanking something, which would be bad and kill you, but would be really funny. Demon hunters kind of just spin with their blades around them. And evokers kind of deep breath around everywhere, which is kind of funny. But I think those are pretty cool. So they all deal damage to enemies and allies. So like you can kind of go use that to go kill stuff, like those big ads, which I think is pretty interesting, honestly. And there's a bunch of shadows and stuff. And then the final phase, there's like a separate realm. Neltharion rips nearby twisted earth into portals to the void realm, inflicting damage to players in 150 yards of detonation, and allowing twisted aberrations into reality. Standing in a portal disconnects a player from reality, inflicting shadow damage every 1.5 seconds, reducing the damage done and reducing damage taken from destruction. And then this is him just blasting people. Okay, so you have to use the portals in the last phase. So this is a lot in this boss. This is going to be a hard boss. But it sounds really cool. And he has a sword, Ashkender, Follow the Brotherhood. Looks pretty cool. The shield. There's an offhand. There's just trinket. He drops all the rare clash trinkets. That's pretty cool. Then the final boss, Scalecommander Sarkareth. So we do have a thing. This is a Dracthyr, a Void Dracthyr, and an Empty Dracthyr. This fight's also pretty well done. Like pretty much finished. So basically, he's trying to kind of pull in all like his energy from the labs, So he starts the battle using his Dracthyr heritage to crush foes. Starts early with a pressing roar and attempts to obliterate players with glittering surge. And then when he gets weakened, he draws upon void powers and starts doing some void stuff. And when he's fully damaged, he destroys the room to draw in powers of the void and convert his abilities to the most powerful forms. So we would have a floor fall through kind of phase transition, which would be really sick. Whenever he uses Glistening Surge, it applies Dazzle to all players who still have a Pressing Howl. I guess you have to like dispel that. Void Bombs are up for high raid damage, but can also be detonated in the emptiness between stars. Jesus, that's edgy as hell. So we're like a void, full-on void boss, which is kind of cool. The emptiness between stars. That's kind of badass. Abyssal Breath creates temporal images of Sarkareth, which then gain power over time from Ebb and Might. Scourging Supernova inflicts damage to player that is not safely hidden behind an astral formation. Okay, let's look at these abilities. So Oblivion, being hit by a void ability inflicts Oblivion, and then at 10 stacks you get lost in the emptiness between stars. And while you're in the emptiness between stars, you have no magic effects and deal no damage. And after 15 seconds, if you're not back yet, you're lost forever and you die. While you're here, you can absorb stellar flares to gain more haste and movement speed. So that's interesting. Then P1 is him just being an evoker. I guess you have to like dispel this and just make sure people are out when it's all the players. So you have to dispel it slowly. Glistening Surge, yeah, he'll dazzle people, and then there's just bombs, mass disintegrate. Oh, so no, so this is how you get rid of Oppressive Howl, eh? It's a make... Okay, that makes sense. So you basically get the debuff, and then you have to send different groups to go ahead and get rid of it. Kind of cool. Daring Breath, and this also gets rid of Oppressing Howl, and then this doesn't. Does this get rid of Oppressing Howl? No, it doesn't. Okay, so it's all about getting rid of Oppressing Howl before he does Dazzled. And then we got a Touch of the Forbidden. Yeah, just a taste. A taste of the Forbidden. Void Bombs. Okay, that's just a bomb. Abyssal Breath. Takes in a deep breath and flies to a location, leaving void residue in his wake. Standing from the residue deals damage. Upon casting Abyssal Breath, you lose behind an image of itself. So you have to kill it, but it rewinds damage taken, restoring health every 1 second. Lashes out, that deals damage and increases damage taken. So how do we kill that? And then Null Glimmer. Interesting. I don't know what these do. Desolate Blossom. Oh, there's so many abilities. There's a bulb of void energy at player locations, which pulse out, absorbing up to that and removing rescind. So much shit, man. There's Dread. There's so many mechanics in this boss. Casting any spell, he empowers his allies with the might of the Black Dragons. Increases the damage done movement speed by 20%. Become immune to crowd control. So I guess we have to kill the ads pretty fast. Void Claws leaves out a frontal cone, and then Void Blast. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this boss fight. And this is only phase 2. And in phase 3, he destroys the whole room, and you're in the void. His bomb still flies up through a void portal before crashing through the floor. Launches several asteroids from his rings, which you have to hide behind. Tears open portals to infinity, conjuring void images of himself that rush out in a line through a player. A supernova. The hide behind for Embrace of Nothingness. Crushing a rate of space upon a player after 8 seconds. A black hole is formed, inflicting 2 million shadow damage, split evenly. It pulls in and absorbs nearby astral formations. And then Duress is just him doing his little removal things. Motes of Oblivion. That's kind of... This is a crazy boss. There's so much going on. Like, holy shit. Let's see what he drops, though. Drops a staff, a dagger, chest, wrists, hands, a waist, cloth legs, male legs, feet, the trinket, and a back. So I imagine this back will have some other special effect. Because right now it's just a cloak from, I think, Shriekwing. Yeah, it's the Shriekwing cloak. Imagine there'll be more effect to it. That's a pretty cool boss fight. There's a lot going on. I'm excited to get into that. Is it less complex and heroic? Yes, but not by much. What about... Yes, but not by much. There's a lot here. Raid Finder. Okay. This raid seems pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Some of these bosses seem pretty interesting. Some of them are really confusing, so we'll have to see once we're actually in the raid and raid testing to kind of get an idea of what's going on there. These look pretty cool, and overall, I'm pretty excited for this raid. So I'm gonna have a bunch more content covering this. So if you want to keep up to date on that, leave a like, comment, and you know, sub to the channel as well. But with that, that's kind of my first look at all the trinkets and kind of raid bosses and everything from this raid. It looks interesting, and I'm kind of excited to get into it. So with that, I'm going to end the video off. So peace. See you next time.